Welcome in. I am the Crypto Bull God, and this is all on the charts. If you appreciate the content, make sure to give me a thumbs up. Click the bell icon for all notifications to know when I go live. And let's get into things. So it's been a little while since we've talked about the charts. Things have been kind of, dull, boring. I would anticipate in the coming months as things start to get a little bit more exciting, I'll be out here a little bit more frequently. But for the time being, what I really felt would be beneficial to speak to are some of the high time frame views and sort of contextualize for you why I remain extremely bullish. We just had a May candle close, which is great. It's another monthly candlestick that's printed on our charts, so we can take a look at that. So we're really going to focus in on weekly and up, right? Weekly, 2 weekly, monthly, 3 month, even 6 and 12 month candlesticks to really get a sense for where the market's at. One of the struggles for newer investors in this space or traders is that we sometimes get caught up in the volatility, right? And so one of the best ways that you can reduce the noise, sort of cut that out, is to really just zoom out and make sure that you're not losing the forest for the trees, as the saying goes. So glad to see Josh in here. Let's fucking go. Juan, good to see you as always. Juan, you're usually the first to comment. You were second. Track, really nice to see some familiar names here. Feel free to drop me a comment and let me know that you're on the live stream. I know I have a small audience here, but I know everybody's names for the most part at this point. What else did I want to say? The other thing I wanted to share before we start getting into some charts here, Earthwalker, good to see you. One of the other things I wanted to share with you is, and again, I'm a very data-driven person. I'm an analytical person, right? It's what I do in my career. It's what I do with charts. One of the things that we have to understand, respect, and appreciate is that we now have 6 months more, 6 months worth of more data than we had to start the year with, right? So that more recent experience can help to guide our view on the anticipated emerging experience that's going to occur over these next handful of months. Now, as we get into the charts here, and we will in one moment, I want you to keep in mind the perspective that I'm taking on the market kind of high level. I believe that we are going to be provided an opportunity to sell out of our investments at much higher valuations in the coming months, whether it's July, August, September, October, whatever the case is. It would behoove you to scale out a significant amount of your assets at that point, in my opinion, because what we will do at that point is we will reevaluate the charts to truly see if there is sort of this expanding cycle that's occurring based on the liquidity cycle, which I've spoken to before, which is something I personally have done a lot of research on from data analysts whom I respect, and that sort of macro view makes a whole lot of sense to me. So there is an argument to be said that this bull run could go well into 2026, sometime in the first half of 2026. But I personally would not want to take that risk, right? I'd rather, if we do see this mass appreciation and we're seeing some of our assets double, triple, quadruple, or maybe even some of them 10x, and we're sitting out in July, August, September, even October, I'd rather take a decent chunk off, maybe 2/3 or more off, allow the dust to settle, get some retracements of 60+% on a lot of these altcoins, some of them maybe correcting 80%, and deciding if it makes sense to scale in at that point. One of the other things to keep in mind, I'm not sure if we're going to look at it at today's stream, but sort of a guiding principle that I'm using in determining how to scale out in my investments is based on that video that I published on my channel many, many months ago. I'm still relying on that, and I would encourage you to check out my channel if you haven't in quite some time to refresh your memory on what those sell indicators are. But I still have an objective set of measures that are telling me when it makes sense to scale out. We all have to appreciate the fact that neither you nor I, it's not, to be successful in this market, it's not a matter of buying the exact bottom or selling the exact top. That is a fool's errand. No one can do that, okay? And it can actually harm you if you I think mentally, if it happens to work in your favor at some point because you think you can outsmart the market. The best thing you can do is respect and be humbled by the market, recognizing I don't know what the top is, right? So to give you an example, I think Bitcoin anywhere between 125, I've been saying 120, 130, 125 to 180, I think is a great area to scale out of your investments. I would be personally most likely scaling out anywhere starting at 150. By 150, I'm starting to heavily scale out, okay? But coinciding with those price targets, I have objective data measures that should tell me that the market is getting overheated, right? Historically significant indicators we've spoken about. We can then use other things like Ethereum, the ETH BTC chart, the Bitcoin dominance. We can look at total 3, we can look at total others to tell us when it probably makes sense to scale out of your altcoins. You know, your altcoins, let me give you a little reality check here on altcoins, because there's no volatility that exists more than in the altcoins. I personally think, let me give you an example, my biggest altcoin holding, Caspa. I personally think that thing could hit $2 plus. I've said that, 2 to 4, nothing has changed my mind on that. At some point I'll put out a video explaining some theoretical targets based on just logic. But it may not hit those price targets. Maybe it doesn't even see $1. The whole point is my success in this market will be contingent upon my ability to objectively, not emotionally, objectively evaluate the data. And if the market feels like it's getting too overextended, it's not about selling everything. It's about gradually scaling out 20%, 20%, 25%, 30%, maybe let 10% ride. No one ever got hurt taking a profit, right? We don't want to be over conservative and have PTSD from 2021, but we also don't want to be outlandish and think XRP is going to hit $20 plus, right? Because you will round trip. So it's all about finding some objective data measures to base your sell strategy on. And I'm here to help in part with that. Hands up, welcome in. So let's get into, look at this shitcoin list. Whoopsie. Yeah. I feel bad for anybody who's, yeah. Anyway, let's get into I'm going to actually start off with the weekly. Okay. This is actually a 2-week view on Bitcoin. Perhaps we should start with the weekly. I'm not going to go any lower than the weekly view here. So this is a weekly view. Technically, we should turn this into green. The way that we can turn from red resistance into green support, it's not just about getting the candle body to close above here. It's that confirming candlestick, which is the preceding candlestick. As long as this red body doesn't close below here by the end of the week, we're fine. That's sitting at about 104,500. As you can see, just focusing on price action, which is king, there's nothing concerning in the chart here. I mean, we're literally just stair-stepping up, right? I mean, it's like an elevator, right? Okay. So nothing concerning on the price action here. We had the highest weekly close a couple weeks ago, it looks like, at $109,000, just over that. So things look healthy from that perspective. Let's take a look at the price indicator. So I'm going to speak to something here that is concerning to me that I've pointed out plenty of times. First off, I like to see as the price action has continued to resume up here, this MACD has continued to move up as well. When you're assessing the chart and trying to determine if you're truly seeing an explosive move that has a lot of potential to go very high, one of the things you want to do is really know what your bread and butter are when it comes to price indicators. You want your MACD to continue trending up. You want your relative strength index to continue trending up. It's not a good sign. We've talked about this plenty of times. Looking at the shorter term here, we had a high here on the RSI back in March of 2024 at 88. We then had a lower high even though price went higher. Okay, that's negative divergence. The price is going higher, the RSI is going lower. We only went up to 78.8. You can see we're significantly lower here. What will lend itself to a less explosive move is as we're evaluating price data continuing to move up, if we come up here and we get rejected by this line, that is a clear sign that we're not going to see prices as high as a lot of people think. But as soon as we can get above here with confirmation, a weekly candlestick prints, maybe we come down and retest, as we've commonly spoken about on this channel, that's what you do. When you have a descending line of resistance, it's common that once you break it, you come back and back test it as support. It's very bullish. It acts as a spring to continue to propel yourself up as long as you hold it. And then we continue to move up. If we do something like this, I am the worst artist. We do something like that, you will see some form of an explosive move in the market. So this is something we're going to be watching very carefully moving along here. Stochastic RSI looks great. The key thing you want to look for on stochastic RSI, I don't care that it's crossed down here. The key thing you want to look for is first you want your blue above orange, and you want to get above this trigger line, which is at 20. I really don't want to see the RSI, the stochastic RSI, dip below 80. In times past, if we start to see a deep move down here, what does this actually mean? If we look at the stochastic RSI on a weekly and we see something like that, momentum is running out, right? So we just want to try to stay above 80. You know, if we peek our head into 78, 75, that's fine. We do one of these things, right? But we want to try to stay up in this general area. That's where we want to stay on the stochastic RSI. Now let's take a look at the 2-week chart. On the 2-week chart, this candlestick has, yes, this candlestick has just, no, this candlestick printed a week ago. So we're going to get a brand new candlestick printing this Monday. Fun fact, next week I'm going on a business trip. Way north and way west from Florida. Let me tell you that. Very different place than Florida. All right, let's get back to the charts. So this 2-week view here, again, I think it really clearly illustrates when you can, again, remove the noise, right? If we were to look at a daily chart, just to illustrate my point, look at all the noise that's in this chart. When we clean it up and we put it on a 2-week time frame, it really clearly illustrates what's going on here. Again, we're just coming up here and creating these higher highs and higher lows, right? So really, really, really good looking chart. We're sitting right on this area of price confluence right there. And let's take a look at the price indicators. So MACD is just beginning to peek its head green here and get a positive cross. What will help this out is if we can close prices right around where we opened. If we can push up towards 109 by the end of this week, that'll help out the MACD a lot. Just getting this thing to remain above in a bullish posture. Again, similarly as we spoke to, the line isn't as clean because it's drawn on the weekly. We have bearish divergence on the RSI. This is something we have to keep an eye on. This is something we have to keep an eye on the 2-week chart. And as you may recall, as you may note, one of my sell indicators, and we may get into this actually, I think it's illustrated on one of these charts here, on the monthly is coming up against that descending resistance. So the RSI is really one of those key indicators when you're charting anything and you're pulling up different price indicators. One, you want to always keep it stupid simple. And two, RSI is a key one. It's rare that I ever evaluate a chart without relative strength index. And the reason for that is because your relative strength index is providing you with the strength, the relative strength, just like it's saying, of price movements, right? So in this case, this is not good. We want to negate the bearish divergence, which we'll be keeping an eye on. How's the stochastic RSI looking? Good. Explosive price movements tend to really start to occur once we approach this 80 line and cross above it. So we still have a little bit of work to do at 53. Let's take a look at the monthly view. So this is something that I put together quite some time ago. They're showing a couple things here. First off, from our approximate bottom here, you can see all the way to top, we ran 1,034 days. From bottom to top, we ran another 1,035 days, so kind of projecting that out. That's where that October time frame's coming from that a lot of people are speaking to. And again, I'm someone who has been here for a long time telling you that the narrative surrounding the cyclical nature of Bitcoin what the halving was a farce. The more that time went on, I feel, and we'll see how this year and next year play out, but I feel like I've sort of been vindicated by that in the sense that there's this bigger macro thing at play, which is this liquidity cycle where money is flooding into the market and propping up the value of assets, right? Which is why they appreciate in value, why your dollar bill is depreciating in value, and why risk assets appreciate in value. We'll get into another interesting view here, which is the copper-gold relativity. Anyway, I have an ascending line here as well, and you can see when the ascending line breaks, we typically enter these bear markets right here. Back in 18, when I was I wasn't even CBG at that point. Back in 18 to 19, back here in 22. Let us not speak of that time period. I don't have PTSD, but I could quickly develop it if we spent too much time talking about 2022. So we're going to move on. So we have a trend line break there. Look what we're doing. We've had the highest monthly close. Okay, nice thick body here. That's what she said. We got a nice thick body. And we got a decently sized wick here. But you can see this is the highest monthly close ever in the history of Bitcoin. And now we're hanging out above this area. This 102,400, this is a key area. And why do you think this area is a key area? Well, if we take a look here through the history of Bitcoin, we can see, and I've always told you that candle bodies, there's a lot more to be said about the candle body where it opens and closes versus a wick. A wick is simply an expression of volatility, buyer, seller, exhaustion, okay? In this case, this 102 is coming right up against these bodies here. We've never had a candle body close above this 102 mark. We just got that last month. Remember everybody was telling you sell in May, go away? I believe if you had been following me on X or Twitter, I was saying sell in May and cry away. Would have been a really bad decision to sell in May. If we take a look at the price indicators, what do we got here? I don't know why do I have these lines? Oh, I think I know what this is. I'm not prepared to talk about that. So we got the MACD moving up on the monthly. We got the stochastic RSI above 20, and it's positively crossed. Again, you want to see this thing get above the 75 to 80 level. That's when we really start to see these explosive moves in the market. Don't take my word for it. We can take a look at price history here. When we got above it here, we had this movement here. We went from 66 all the way up to 112, or 109, I guess. Back here, when we definitively got above it, we kind of retested it. Here, we went from 26 up to 74. So this monthly stochastic RSI, and again, this is my bread and butter. I love the MACD, the RSI, and stochastic RSI. It's what I always speak to when I come on this channel. Stochastic RSI looks great. Let's check out the relative strength index. Now, as I was speaking to before, a topping indicator for me that's telling me the market is way overheated and that it's going to flash. Right now, all my overheated indicators, impulsive indicators, Bitcoin topping indicators, they're all red. Nothing has triggered. If it starts to approach here, that's going to trigger and tell us we're way overheated. There is obviously a possibility we never get up to that area. It's very possible. That's why I have a handful of indicators. There is no indicator like the Pi cycle top which will indefinitely work. Think about what happened with the halving cycle. Bitcoin reached a new all-time high before the halving. That was impossible. No one thought that could be done, right? So there is certainly a possibility we never get up here, which is why I have several indicators, even on-chain data like the MVRVZ score. I think if the Pew multiple's in there. But anyway, that's why I have several indicators. So right now, beyond this being an extremely overheated area, you can see we've sort of coiled in here, right? So the question I'm asking myself is, once we break over 70, which is typically when you see the most explosive moves in the market, okay, are we going to come up to this descending trend line here, or are we going to reject and come back over, or are we going to break through? If we start to break through and we maintain a level right up here and come up here in 2026, that's certainly a possibility, or maybe we just jettison right up there in 2025. But that's what I'm going to be watching for. Regardless, the monthly looks very healthy. Let's take a look at the 3-month. I don't know that we're going to look at price indicators because I don't know if it's going to be as relevant on that high a time frame. I definitely want to look at price data. So if we look at a 3-month chart, again, I don't see anything concerning. Again, this is the benefit of zooming out. I don't see anything concerning here. Again, ignore the lines because that was drawn on a monthly view. You can see right now this candlestick has to close out for June. This is obviously a quarterly candlestick, which is April, May, June. But we're embarking on potentially having the highest 3-month candlestick closing ever in the history of Bitcoin. The other thing that sort of sticks out to me, you have these mini bull flags, right? What I mean is you have a pole here and a pennant here, and then you have a pole here and a pennant here, and then you sort of have this pole here, and you got this pennant here, right? And it almost looks like we want to break out again. So, again, that's just objectively evaluating the data. I'm not telling you what I want to see happen. I'm telling you what the chart is telling me. Looking at the price indicators, this MACD looks ridiculously healthy. The 3-month, again, I want to see this RSI get a lot higher. I want to see it start to approach 80. The higher your RSI and stochastic RSI values get, the more explosive the move. We don't want this RSI to stay down. It's actually at a real healthy level, believe it or not. It's actually at 72.55. It's above 70, which is actually very bullish. We're just below 70 on the monthly. Once this can get above 70, we should start to see some fireworks in the market. If we go back to the 3-month, I'm jumping around here, and we look at look what's going on with the stochastic RSI on the 3-month. This is typically where you're going to start to see your most explosive price action, right? Again, we don't know if Bitcoin's going to top in the next 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 12 months. We don't know. But again, I want to caution you that if this market really does begin to accelerate in the next several months, which I'm anticipating, and at that point, once it's a little bit more enthusiastic in the market, I'll be out here more frequently, it would behoove you to consider selling a large portion of your assets, not knowing what 2026 is going to bring. I would rather let the dust settle, profit. No one ever got hurt taking a profit. Pay yourself back for what you invested in the market. Take some profits. Let it sit on the sidelines. Maybe go on a vacation and decide if you want to redeploy assets into the market. Let's get to Ethereum. Let me see who else I have in the live stream. What happened to A0? I thought it was good. Yeah, I don't know what happened to it, but that thing definitely rugged. Where was that? I had that open here somewhere. Okay, let me see. Shitcoins. Casper at $0.01. A0 at 3 cents. Yeah, this can happen to anyone. I genuinely feel bad for anyone who is invested in that. Some sort of rug pull. I really don't know the specifics. Josh, no, I'm not going to Montana. I'm actually going into Wisconsin, so the middle of nowhere. Cassius, welcome in. Ethereum. Now, I've been saying this. Oh, this is actually a 3-day view, so I lied to you. We are going to go on a smaller time frame than a week. Oh my God, I wasn't honest. Actually, I forgot I had this view open, to be honest with you. But what was I going to say? Oh, this is a 3-day view on Ethereum. Now, one of the things that I have routinely expressed to you, if you want to simplify your life and you want to understand the relative health of the market, whether it's Bitcoin or altcoins, focus on Bitcoin, know what charts to look at, look at Ethereum. Because Ethereum, it doesn't matter what your view of the market is. Ethereum's going to guide the overall confidence in the market, right? If Ethereum starts to outperform, which I'm expecting, and we start clearing up towards $5,000, the all-time high looks like it's at $4,900, okay? Once we start to break into $5,000 territory, that is going to signal, think about what that signals to the market. What sort of emotions will begin to be exhibited within the market? Euphoria, right? Risk on. Fucking risk on. I don't want to be in Bitcoin. Shit, I don't even know if I really want to be in Ethereum, but I will, purchase this $100 million meme coin, That's what happens. That's why you want Ethereum to do well. Guys, this is a textbook bull flag. It's textbook, okay? I'm not telling you what's going to happen here. These patterns have a certain likelihood of success and failure, maybe at 70-30. Maybe 70% of the time these things validate and break up. 30% of the time it's a fake out, right? I've been live streaming enough with you guys, and I've looked at enough charts with you guys where we have looked at patterns that were validated and we've looked at patterns that were invalidated. My point as a technician coming on this channel, sharing this information with you, is not to tell you what's going to happen. It's me interpreting objectively the data and telling you what it's telling us with a probability assigned to it, okay? So in this case, if the probability is 70%, it's probably somewhere along there. Maybe it's 65, 70%. I think that's reasonable. There's a 65 to 70% probability. You're going to see this thing break up, and the initial target, this is just the technical target. If it broke out here towards the beginning of June, we're talking about, and it's not a linear, this isn't a straight move up, but if we start to break out right here, you should see some sort of initial move up to this area, which is up to, looks like $4,100, right? Then you're talking about then you're talking about being only 20% away from all-time highs, actually a little bit less than that. So maybe 18%. But this is looking great. This is looking great for a trend continuation. If we go to the weekly, I mean, the bull pennant's even present on the weekly. Look, Ethereum has a lot of work to do, okay? It has a lot of work to do, but this bull pennant, if it plays out, could go a long ways to helping us. You can see the RSI is all the way down here at 52. But the main thing I'm focused on, okay, the main thing I'm focused on is this bull flag. I want to see if this pattern validates itself and we start to break out. Now, how can you tell if the pattern starts, if it's valid? First off, you're going to see volume increase at the point of break. You're going to see this volume bar go up, okay? There's going to be a green bar here, and it's going to be higher than back here. This is also classic. In a bull pennant, it's very classic to see the pole have high volume like we see here, and then as we're in the pennant, the volume fades off, but then you want to see a spike in the volume, okay? So we're going to look for that spike in the volume. Volume precedes price, okay? But we also want to obviously watch to see if we break the descending line and hold above the descending line. It's really that simple. The other thing I wanted to look at with you is I wanted to look at the ETH BTC chart, okay? Now, the ETH BTC chart right here, and I'll tell you why I have this golden box here if I haven't spoken to this already. As you can see, to me, now this is a 3-month chart, so I'm really trying to consolidate things here, again, to illustrate my point. A few things I would say here. First off, this is like an inverse parabola. I showed this on a Caspa chart recently, okay? Typically, with a parabola, let me illustrate my point. With a parabola, right, you're typically looking at something like that, right? That's a parabola, all right, where your price is sort of following this line here, and as soon as the parabola breaks, that's when your trend starts to break down, okay? This is an inverse parabola. What do I mean by an inverse parabola? I'll explain what I mean by it and then what that means for price. So price is doing this, okay? It's literally inverted. It's the upside down world from Stranger Things. Fun fact, I just read yesterday, Stranger Things Season 5, I'm so excited, is coming back in November. So be on the lookout for that. So the inverse parabola means it's literally just the inverse of a parabolic price action to the upside. And similarly, as parabolas tend to lead to explosive price movements up, and once they break, the price tends to break down. In this case, this was an explosive move down. And once the parabola breaks, we should at least see some sort of relief here. It could be a dead cat bounce. We could create a lower high. I absolutely see that possibility for sure. But at the very least, we should get a decent bounce. So we're starting to see that right now. If we just focus on the formation of the 3-month candlestick, this is a beautiful, bullish, hammer candlestick trend reversal candlestick, okay? And we bounced right up to the 0.236 Fibonacci. You know, the more, it's interesting. I use Fibonacci extensions and Fibonacci retracements here and there within some charts. It's interesting to see the confluence. I will tell you, being a numbers guy, it's really interesting to see the Fibonacci sequence work out in real life and charts. It's in patterns. It is crazy. I was listening to something the other day talking about either the pyramids or crop circles with Fibonacci levels. So it's very interesting how this shit plays out in life. It's all a simulation, right? We are living in the matrix. So why do I have this yellow rectangle up here? What I'm hypothesizing is at the very least, and if I had to pick a side, I would say this would be the side I would say is most likely. We're going to bounce right up to the golden pocket, the 0.618, maybe as high as the 0.786, right up to this level. I think that's where we're going to top at. I don't see a for instance at this point where we do this. I don't see that. I think we're going to create a lower high. But during this move, right, if I am correct, during this move, when we're bouncing up here, okay, and we're hitting these high levels, this is where Ethereum is going to be well above 5,000, okay? If we just look at the relativity to Bitcoin, this is at like a 0.6 right in here. That's telling us that's telling us that at $100,000 Bitcoin, Ethereum would be $6,000, right? So theoretically, if Bitcoin was all the way up at 150, it'd be a $9,000 Ethereum, right? My personal sort of view of Ethereum as I could see it hitting, I think it would be smart to take profits with Ethereum anywhere between 6,000 and 12,000. I think you should be heavily taking profits, in my opinion, between 8 and 10, but we'll allow the charts to speak for themselves. But I could certainly see Ethereum hitting 10,000. Again, recognize what I'm saying when I talk about Ethereum here. Do I think Ethereum is going to go higher than 6,000? I do, but I don't know that, right? So you have to deploy a sell strategy that works for how conservative or aggressive you want to be. Even though I think Ethereum is going to go higher than 6,000, I still think based on my view of this chart, coupled with the other chart, it would be smart to at least take some profits at 6,000, right? It's not about capturing the exact top, right? Okay, so that is my view on Ethereum BTC. Now, before I get into the copper-gold ratio, another chart that I wanted to take a look at with you, I wanted to take a look at altcoin dominance, okay? So again, this is a chart. I've really tried to simplify this for you guys. Every week I keep seeing somebody talking about alt season, right? And it's honestly gotten annoying, quite frankly. We will not see a true... What is an alt season, right? I feel like we talked about this last time a few weeks ago. What is a true alt season? A true alt season is when it's not just altcoins outperforming Bitcoin. That's not what it is. We're talking about altcoins massively outperforming Bitcoin. There is a shift in psychology within the market. And the shift within the psychology of the market is, during this time, let me clearly explain this to you. During this time, Bitcoin is outperforming most assets. Most assets, Bitcoin is outperforming. Yeah, maybe you could pick a time period here and say, well, Solana outperformed Bitcoin. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying that Bitcoin outperforms the majority of all the altcoins during this entire time, okay? This is a less risky psychological moment within the market. It's an extended period. It's this entire time, right? Which is historically what we see. For a longer period of time, we're not as risk on, we're more conservative, okay? And we are in love with Bitcoin and we want to see Bitcoin run. A lot of people are really excited about Bitcoin. Bitcoin at some point, historically what happens to explain the psychology of the market, people don't see the outpaced returns in Bitcoin. Bitcoin's at 100 and... Look, a lot of people don't understand numbers. USD value for a token is extremely different than the market cap. It's why so many brainless individuals think XRP is going to go to like $100. They literally don't understand math, okay? You have to understand the market cap, but the psychology of the market in this case is, wow, Bitcoin is super expensive at $120,000, $150,000. I want to buy this meme coin. I want to buy this altcoin. And so there's a shift in psychology that happens, which results, Bitcoin can continue going up, and historically during the drop it does, but your altcoins are going up so dramatically and creating new all-time highs. They're 5xing, 10xing, while Bitcoin's up 10, 20, 30%, okay? So that is something that we're going to be watching for in the market. Now, again, I'm basing this view as I base all of my views on historical context. I can't come out here, no one. You're following the wrong people if they tell you this. No one can tell you what's going to happen with certainty. What do I always say on this channel? The only thing certain in life is living and dying. But what we can do is we can make objective, informed decisions. And the way that we do that is we evaluate certain key charts. This is a key chart. This is the Bitcoin dominance chart. Historically, there's been a quick drop in Bitcoin dominance, which has led, and it's not even led to, I would say it illustrates. That's probably a better way to put it. These large drops in dominance illustrate alt season and when it will happen, right? And I'm theorizing that we're going to see some sort of a massive drop going into the end of this year and quite possibly next year finishing off, okay? So this is something to keep an eye on. One other chart I wanted to take a look at. Let's see. Do I have any questions here? Sorry, I'm a little slow with the comments here. I'm getting so into the charts. I haven't done this with you guys in a while. Can you tell me how to buy? Okay. Okay. I love getting the scammy shit in the comments, even for such a small channel. Now, I don't know. The credit does not go to me for creating this chart. I don't know if this was TechDev. I don't know if TechDev got this from someone else, but I know I am subscribed to his newsletter, and I know he's posted about this. He's posted about this before on X. I don't share charts that are proprietary to his newsletter. That would be stealing his information and giving out free information that would otherwise be something you have to pay for. So I would never do that. In this case, what I'm doing is I'm illustrating something that someone else has already done. I give them full credit. So I don't know if it was him or someone else. But what is this exactly? Like, maybe you're not a numbers person. Maybe you're not an analytics guy. And you're looking at this and you're like, what the hell is this? Because I would bet of the 500 people that are tuned in right now, wow, we're at 511. I'm gonna live in imaginary land. We're 511 people. I'm going to imagine of the 511 people, probably 250 are analytically minded and the other 261 are, right? So half of you probably can properly interpret this. The other one, you need someone to tell you what's going on here. This is literally a ratio. Now, I know you hated those things in elementary school, but it's copper divided by gold. The higher the ratio, this is the easiest way to think of it, right? The higher the ratio, what it implies is copper is outpacing gold. The lower the ratio, it means that copper is underperforming gold. Now we can see here what I'm clearly indicating with the vertical green lines. This is when we saw tops in the market. And you can see when the ratio breaks this descending trend line and shoots up, it's at the same time period that we saw mass appreciation in the market, aka alt season, in crypto, right? And I'm sure if I looked at the stock market, I'm sure did very well as well. You can see as soon as we broke here, we started moving up here, mass appreciation within the market. We haven't seen that just yet, but why would that be the case? Why would an increase in the ratio of copper to gold lead to outperformance in risk on assets? Well, let's think about what copper and gold are. Gold is viewed as a safe haven asset. Copper is used in a ton of shit for construction, building, all sorts of shit. So if there's excitement in the market, if there is exuberance, if there is positivity, that we are in a bull market and you know, the country is doing well from A to B, okay? Copper prices are going to go up to reflect that. There's going to be more demand for copper. So copper is going to begin to outperform gold, which is viewed as a safe haven. Hey, we don't need to be as conservative anymore. Gold isn't going to appreciate as much in value, but now we're really excited about the economy. So copper's there's more demand for it, so it's got to outpace gold. So that is what's going on in this chart. Once we see the outperformance of copper relative to gold, we see it come up here. This should coincide. This move here, okay? This move here should make us smile, okay? Should make us smile. In fact, we're going to be so happy, our eyes will be like this. We're going to be having crossed eyes. It's going to be fucking fantastic. This should coincide with a large movement up in the market, okay? So this is another chart to keep an eye on. What's up, M786WP? What is going on? What other charts can I take a look at here? I feel like, honestly, we've been on this stream for 41 minutes. I appreciate everyone showing up that has made time for me. I'm trying to think what else I can show with you in the chart. You know what I actually want to show with you in the chart? Because I don't want people to think I'm taking shits on projects without having merit, okay? And I'm not taking a shit at all. I want to attempt to share with you why I'm not uber bullish on XRP, okay? And why I think a lot of the price targets out there are outlandish. What is this chart clearly depicting for you? Well, first off, XRP over time has been losing value relative to Bitcoin, right? This is a XRP to Bitcoin chart. Now, for anyone out there who likes XRP, let's not get salty. Let's be open-minded and objective and hear what I'm about to say, okay? Because it will benefit you. Maybe I'll have something bullish to say. Maybe I won't. Stick around to find out. First off, we see lower highs coming in here. The other thing that we can see clearly back in this time frame here in 2021 and late 2020, you see how we wicked all the way up here? We actually created a lower high here, and that lower high is depicted. There's a lot of lines here, so I apologize. That line is depicted by this blue line here. Now, what the chart is clearly attempting to convey to you is it's not that XRP can't go all the way up here, which if it did, this thing will be above $10, okay? It's not that we can't go up here. This is possible. We can come up here. It's just not as probable. Why am I saying it's not as probable? We have this area of descending resistance. We have this area of descending resistance. We have this red line of horizontal resistance. We have this blue line of horizontal resistance. We have literally 4 areas of price confluence that are going to give us a problem. And that's why I think it's highly unlikely. What I think is more likely is we'll come up somewhere into this area. And if we get as high as here, look, if Bitcoin is over $100,000, there's actually good news for you in my opinion. At a 0.42, this 0.42 right there, that's saying at $100,000, XRP would be $4.20. At $150,000, XRP would be $6.30. Now, for me personally, I would be heavily taking profits anywhere between $350 and $550. $350 and $550 in my opinion. But again, we'll have to watch the charts. This thing, part of me hopes I'm correct because it'll point to my analysis being correct. Part of me hopes I'm wrong because I would love for anyone to profit in this market, okay? I'm just being honest with you and sharing with you what I see in the chart. So that's the rationale for why I'm not as bullish on that token despite, you know, the narratives that are out there, right? There's always a narrative for anything. See how else can you look? We're not gonna do TA Q&A today, my friend. I do appreciate you jumping on the live stream, but I didn't even want to be going for 45 minutes here. We're probably gonna hop off soon. But before we hop off, let's there was another chart I wanted to take a look. Stick around for this one. I think we're gonna end on this chart. This is actually a good. Where the hell is that chart? There's a good chart that I wanted to show you. Hold on a second. Now, this is one that I know I posted out on, this is one I posted out on X or Twitter. but I don't think that we talked about it on the live stream. So there's a few key things to point out on this chart that we need to understand. First off, why do I have this up here at 500%? There's a reason. Is that the technical target? Hold on a second. I haven't looked at this chart in a little bit. That is, I believe that would be the technical target. I don't know why I have that. Well, I need to double check how the hell I came up with this target up here at 500%. That I don't know at the moment, how I came up with that. But anyway, this is others charted against BTC. Now, others as a refresher, these are all of your altcoins outside of the top 10. This is charting their price performance relative to Bitcoin. It speaks exactly to what I was talking about before. Remember we looked at this chart and I told you this whole time period that Bitcoin was outperforming altcoins on average, right? This chart clearly shows that. We're in a downtrend. The numerator others is getting lower and lower, and the denominator is getting higher and higher, and that causes the ratio to get smaller and smaller and smaller, okay? Third grade math, maybe second grade. I don't know. For me, kindergarten. Hey. I don't know. Actually, I wasn't that brilliant in math as a kid, to be honest. Well, I don't know. Maybe I was. But, all right, let's move on. Hey, God gives us all abilities, okay? Like, being artistic, you've been on this channel long enough. I am a horrible artist. I think it's one of the most fascinating things to see someone from scratch draw like an anime person or a beautiful forest with like a cat. Like, to have the creativity and the vision to be able to do that is insane. I can't do that. Numbers I get. For whatever reason, numbers just, they fucking click with me. I don't know what it is. It's just the way I'm made. Anyway, let me clearly clearly communicate to you why this is an important chart. First off, we're in a falling wedge. A falling wedge is a bullish pattern. We have a wide base and a more narrow bottom down here, okay? I have this on a 2-month chart or something. I had this drawn a little bit differently. Okay, maybe not. Anywho, a falling wedge is a bullish pattern. A falling wedge, if confirmed, maybe it's a 65-35% probability, 70-30, similar to the bull flag. If we break here, this line, we're at least going to get some sort of a dead cat bounce. Maybe we create a lower high, right? I suspect we won't. Maybe we create a lower high. The other thing to note beyond the falling wedge, and I've surmised that we've bottomed down here. That's my opinion. And that'll get into the price indicator we're going to look at next. This is where we saw a massive alt run, right? This is where we saw a massive alt run, okay? You can see the higher highs coming in here, all right? You can see the higher highs. Maybe that's where I got this target from. I don't know. Yeah, you can see the higher highs coming in here, right? Through each run, right? Big run up alt season, okay? Relativity drops off. Bitcoin outperforms. We start to outperform. We dip back down. Massive outperformance. We are in massive suppression. I think, and I've been telling you this, guys, for a while now. I think the biggest thing that has hurt this market is the inability for people to really focus in on the key charts and keep it stupid simple and remaining patient, right? It should conceptually make sense to you that as the market matures, the mix of market participants and the size of the market, right? Bitcoin used to be, I don't know, $1 billion. Under $1 billion. I mean, when I was in the market, Bitcoin was under $1 billion. I'm pretty sure I'd have to do the math. Let me just do some rough math. I don't know what the hell the market. Well, we're not going to do the quick math right now. Point is, it was under $1 billion, I'm pretty sure. Right now, Bitcoin's like a few trillion, okay? So we should expect, based upon that it's going to take a greater amount of time for things to pan out. Should make sense. And it should also make sense that a lot of those larger assets are not going to have the big runs like they had, right? Your XRPs, your Ethereums, your Solanas, they're more mature assets now. So they're not going to see those massive runs that we've seen in years past. It's just, again, it's just logic. But But anywho, the other thing that I want to point out to you here is a really interesting tidbit of information. When this, and this is perhaps the most important takeaway from this chart. So if you stuck around for this, props to you and thank you so much. And feel free to drop a comment because I do enjoy hearing from you. When the market bottomed, okay, so we bottomed right here, which is signified by here. It took 396 days until we had our market top, okay? When we bottomed here, and then we had our market top up here. It took roughly 365 days, okay? As you can see, I am making an assumption at the moment, and we'll see if it holds water. I think I just made up a saying. Holds credence, holds water. What the hell was that? This is what happens when you're live. Whew, pressure's on. As you can see, if this candlestick right here, if I am correct, okay, we're in a falling wedge. If this candlestick right here in May was our bottoming candlestick, implying that from June onward until cyclical top, altcoins are set to outperform Bitcoin. And there's early indications that we can be very hopeful that's going to occur given a lot of the price movement we're seeing on the ETH BTC chart. If this is correct, and we bottomed here, and the timing plays out similarly to the prior two times, guys, we're going to be running all the way into May of next year. You see this, 365 days out from now is May. I totally see a plausible scenario where I'm giving you a hypothetical to illustrate my point. I think about crypto 24/7. So let me give you a hypothetical here. I could totally see a scenario where we come up here and we hit 130, 140,000 here up in August, September, and then we start to see this, right? And your altcoins, look, your altcoins have big runs here, right? Your altcoins have run really hard. And then we see these lower highs and lower lows come in, and everybody's like, okay, the 4-year cycle is over. It's dead. And we sort of flatten out here going into 2026, and then Bitcoin starts to sort of regain its strength. And then we start to see a new all-time high before the end of the first half of next year in altcoins. And maybe it's selectively. They run really hard as well. But we'll have to see how that all plays out. The point is, this is one view that tells us that if we play out similarly to times past, this market is not going to top until May of 2026. Am I telling you that the market will not top this year and we are going to top in the first half of next year? No, you clearly haven't listened to anything I've been saying. You may have heard what I said, but you're not listening, okay? What I'm telling you is this chart is telling us that if things play out similarly, they don't need to play out exactly the same. Maybe it's not 365 days. Maybe it's 300 days. Maybe it's 400 days. Point is, if we play out similarly to these two times past, and we have bottomed here, market's going to extend into 2026, okay? So we'll have to be patient and see how things play out. But again, this is what I'm showing you, these views that I'm looking at, this is how I personally analyze the market. These are the things that I'm focused on at the moment. I know that when a lot of the things in these charts start to really turn bullish that we just spoke to, and we really start to see things ramp up, you're going to see your altcoins turn around. We're seeing a little bit of a downturn right now. By the way, that is healthy. Another thing that I commonly hit on in this channel is you can't have a line going straight up with price. You need to have pullbacks and consolidation. The key is to have higher highs and higher lows. When you start to get the pullbacks and consolidation, it allows your price indicators to cool off. It provides stability in the market, which is good to see. So we're seeing things cool off a little bit, but I'm not concerned on this end. KR, welcome to see you in here. Hope you're well, cutting to 7%. Brother, about 10%. No, wait, you talking about body fat? Yes, brother. Hope you're well. 7% body fat. So I'll tell you something personal for myself. Yeah, so I think I told you guys I got a DEXA scan I don't know if I told you this or not. I have no idea. I did get a DEXA scan of my body fat. It was either 8 or 8.5%. You got to be careful with body fat because you don't want to get too low. It can cause, from what I've read, if your body fat is too low, if you start heading towards 5% or lower, it can cause hormonal issues, and you don't want to run into that. So, but yeah, I'm at like 8.5%. I'm probably going to get another DEXA scan at the end of the year. I'm curious where I land. Guys, I think that's going to do it. I honestly don't know when I'm going to live stream again. That's why it's important that you click the bell icon for notifications to know when I got live. Keep in mind that when the market really does start to pick up and there's a lot more excitement in the market, I will be out here live streaming more often. Just because there's going to be more to talk about and I think more to pay attention to and be on top of. Right now, we're just chilling. Things are cool, you know. But I really want to start to see this dominance begin to drop. You know, I want to see the ETH BTC tick up towards the 0.382 and beyond. Then things will really begin to pick up. Remember, the market doesn't wait for you. When it decides it wants to go, it changes on a dime. I've told you this time and time again, right? When I went out on my surgery a couple years ago, I was pissed because the time period that I missed was when Bitcoin exploded up from that $20,000 range. And when it decides it wants to go, it goes. So, all right, guys, thanks for tuning in. Until next time, let's all spread awareness and carry the education forward. Thank you so much.